Hi, Kim West, the Sleep Lady, and in today's video blog, I'm going to answer this mom's question about her 2 children who aren't sleeping. Here's what she said. Hi, Kim. I saw you present in Baltimore when my son, who is now almost 3 years old, was only 6 months old. It seems from day one he's had sleep issues. Recently, he went through about 6 months of great sleep patterns until his sister was born last year. Since then, there's been lots of change. There have been some changes in his sleep patterns as well. He refuses to allow us to leave his room at night until he falls asleep. If we try to leave before he wakes, he'll scream, "Mommy and Daddy," until he wakes my 1-year-old up next door. If we're lucky to escape after he falls asleep, he'll wake again at 1, 2, 3 a.m., only to scream again and wake the entire household. We are a pawn to protect our daughter's sleep patterns. He has 1 nap at daycare from 12:45 until 2:45, and we put him down at night after his routine at 7:30 p.m. He will spend hours with his eyes open, making sure that we are still seated by him. We are beyond frustrated. Then there's my 1-year-old, who would love to continue to nurse around the clock still. We recently returned from a trip to Mexico where she woke nearly every hour or 2. The only way to keep my son asleep was to succumb to her nursing needs, and so now we're in a whole new pattern of sleep trouble with her. She has 2 naps, approximately an hour and a half each, and most times less. She routinely wakes at 3:30 a.m. and stays awake until 4:30 or 5. We are truly at our wits' end. This has literally been going on for years. We let them cry it out. We go in and out in our patterns. We sit with them. We've tried it all. Help. Wow, that sounds tiring. All right, so let's see. There's a lot to talk about here. So let's just talk first about your son. You have to decide, you're going to have to pick a period when you're going to be home, and then we're going to have to be super consistent. And I would just do everything that I lay out in my book long enough. Okay, so that means have the family meeting and talk about how he's going to have to learn how to sleep, put himself to sleep through the night, and create a sleep manner chart. I noticed that you said you're sitting next to his bed. I don't know how long you've been sitting next to his bed and whether you've ingrained that habit, which means, of course, any move away, he's not going to like. Okay, that can cause that sort of hypervigilance, like trying to sleep with one eye open to make sure you don't move. The other thing that can cause that is if you were getting impatient and you were leaving too soon before he was asleep, and then he can't really trust that you say that you're going to stay even though you don't. I find that happens a lot, unfortunately, so that means that you're just going to have to stay until he's asleep, and you're going to have to move your chair every 3 nights. So if you've been sitting perhaps sometimes for weeks, even months, even years, I've had some parents where they're sleeping in their child's room on the floor or in a really cozy glider or chair, you're going to have to move, and you're going to have to be prepared for the temper tantrum, and you're going to have to be prepared for him to wake up your 1-year-old, okay, who I'll get to in a minute. So I want you to divide and conquer. So let's say you, Mom, are going to go into the 3-year-old and he wakes up the 1-year-old. I don't want you to say, "Oh, great, now you've woken up your sister." Okay, because now he's going to know what gets you, especially if you then, as you say, succumb to doing whatever it takes to make sure everybody goes back to sleep. So divide and conquer. Okay, one person goes into the 1-year-old and one person stays with the 3-year-old, and you basically try to ignore that the 1-year-old is with the other parent crying and that he woke her up, or by whatever order it came in. And then you have to really be super consistent, like long enough, and that you're always reassuring him. Again, talk to him about his thoughts, throwing out the scary thoughts, thinking about something good. I'm going to put a link into this article about nightmares and night terrors, and also bedtime routines and teaching creative visualization. Okay, so I know I'm whipping through a lot here. There's a lot to go over, and it is all in detail in the 2.5 to 5-year-old chapter of my book. And I want to make sure to give you really helpful starting points. Okay, now with your 1-year-old, you might as well just sleep coach them both at the same time. I mean, honestly, you're up anyways several times during the night. Why, do one and then do the other. It just means you'll be awake longer amounts of time. And I find that the longer a parent has to be awake, the harder it will be for them to stay consistent, because you run out of steam, which is completely, I can relate, okay? So do it at the same time. So since the 1-year-old has a nursing to sleep crutch, probably will be that dad has to be with the 3-year-old, at least in the beginning, and you'll have to attend to the 1-year-old, at least at the times that she needs to be nursed. Check in with the pediatrician about her eating and her growth and everything else. Make sure she really can go all night without a feeding. If she only needs one, fine. Then build that into your plan. Start with, of course, on a night with great naps, awake at bedtime. If nurse her with the light on, burp, kisses, a little song, even a little quick book if you want, and into bed, and somebody sit with her. You can switch off at that point. Dad could go sit with her. You could go into it with your 3-year-old. And then decide which weaning method you're going to use. Again, that is outlined in my book, and I will link an article about some of the choices that you can do in night weaning. And then you have to be super consistent, okay? And then, of course, make sure she remains well napped until finally, more than likely your 1-year-old will start sleeping through the night before your 3-year-old. It just takes longer when they're older, and we've had a pattern of being more inconsistent, but it's not impossible, okay? So I hope that you and your husband can support each other, and you can get them both sleeping through the night.